In this video, I'll show you how you can install Radiant on Windows. So we're on the install page, and the first thing to realize is that you need a profile or username or login that has only ASCII characters. So I'd recommend just using the letters A through Z, either in capital or not, and creating a username out of that. So if you have a username that has Chinese or Korean or other characters, that will likely not work. Okay, so once you have a username or profile that has only ASCII characters, we can get started, and the first step is to install R for your system. So R is a programming language, and we'll need that installed first before we can install the other components that will allow us to use Radiant. So if you're on the install page, you'll see this link here. This is for Windows. So if you click that, it'll start a download of the latest version of R. And at this time, that is R 3.3.1. Now it's important as we do the install that we're going to install the program into the directory C R 3.3.1. Okay, and we'll see what that looks like. Now I'm not going to click on here because it's just going to start a download and I already have it on my computer. So it'll look like this if you save it to your desktop. So I'm just going to double click that, and it'll ask me if I want to allow this program to make changes. Now of course I do because I want to install it. So just click yes. And then we'll use some of the defaults. So we'll choose English, click Next, Next again. And so this is an important field. Because as I said, we want to install into C and then R 3.1. So not into program files. This is very, very important. Okay. So I just deleted the part that says program files. And so now when it installs, it's going to install into C R 3.3.1. All right. So once you've made that change, click on Next. And next again, and just follow the defaults for the remainder. So it's going to create a desktop icon. We'll need that to start, but later on you'll be able to delete that, and then it'll install pretty quickly. So let's just wait for that, and then we'll see the shortcut, and then we'll see how to proceed from there. Right? And again, this is installing into CR and not into program files. Okay, almost done. All right, so it's finished now, and we'll see two icons. Now, almost all of you will have a system that is 64-bit, so let's just open up the R64. Okay, and so this is what R looks like. Now, we're not actually be using R directly. We'll be using Radiant, which builds on top of R. Okay, so let's go back to the install page. And so there are multiple steps you have to go through, but what we're actually going to do is just copy and paste this command. So source, and then this script that I wrote for you that'll install different components. So it'll install RStudio, which we'll need. We'll actually be starting Radiant from RStudio. I would also highly recommend that you install Chrome. If that's not already your default browser, I recommend that that's what you use. Other browsers will also work. Recent versions of Internet Explorer, Safari if you're on Mac, but I highly recommend Chrome. Okay. We'll also, if we want to generate PDF reports, we'll need to install something called Tech, but that'll all happen automatically, and then finally we'll have Radiant installed. But so what you need is to install R, which we just did, and then copy and paste this command, source, and so on, and we're going to go back to R and paste that in here. Okay, and then that's going to start doing a bunch of stuff. In fact, it's going to start installing a bunch of packages. I'm just going to pause the video until that's completed and then show you how we go from there. So you should just let this run until it's completed and ask you for more input. Okay, so the first part of the install has completed. It continues to download and install packages. So you notice here that it's installed a number of packages, unpacked them, and so on. You don't have to worry about this. It's just going through the motions here. And you'll notice that right now it says it's downloading RStudio. So RStudio is a front end to R that makes it a little easier to do a number of things. And one is it's going to allow us to, just from a menu, open up Radiant and update it as well. So it's downloaded RStudio. We're now going to click on yes to let it install. And here we just follow the defaults, right? So the only thing that you really have to be mindful of when installing this installing Radiant is that R needs to be installed in C/R /R 3.3.1. Okay. Other than that, you can pretty much follow all the defaults. And so this again will take a second as it's installing RStudio. And so looks like it's actually speeding up a bit. So we'll just wait until that's completed and then go into the final phase of installing Radiant. Okay. So it looks like it's finished. So the next step is to install a zip utility so that you can save and open zip files directly from R and Radiant. All right, just follow the defaults, and when it's done, hit close. Now the last step is to install miktex. This will allow you to generate PDF reports directly from Radiant. This will take a second to download, so I'll just pause and come back when it's done. All right, so the download is complete. Let's click yes. Accept the conditions, click next. Follow the defaults again. I would recommend you choose letter as the preferred paper because that's the default in the US. And it's going to take a little time to install, so again I'll pause until that's finished. Okay, looks like that's all finished. All right, and the installation of our RStudio Radiant, all the components, is now complete. And if we now want to start up Radiant, we can actually just go ahead and close R. Often R will ask if you want to save the workspace image, just say no. And now what we can actually do is we can just go ahead and remove these shortcuts because we won't need them. And the installer we can get rid of as well for R. All right, so how do we get to RStudio? Because RStudio is what we're going to use to start up Radiant. All right, looks like we'll have to search for it. There it is. So let's add this to the taskbar. All right. And there it is. So now if we open up RStudio, we'll see an add-ins drop down here. There are 3 entries. This entry will start Radiant. This is to update Radiant to a new version. And this is to just open up the data component. So you can open and save data, transform it, combine it, visualize it, and so on. Right? All those components are also in Radiant, but this is just a subset of all the functionality. All right, and if for some reason these entries are not shown, just click on Browse Add-ins. You'll see here that you can select Radiant and hit Execute. All right, I'll just show it directly from the Add-ins menu. And this will start up Radiant in your default web browser, which hopefully is Chrome. Here we go. All right, so this is what you should see when you start up Radiant. Some information about diamonds, and we can go into more detail about exactly how this works, but the way to stop Radiant again is just to click the power icon and hit stop. All right. Now one thing you might want to do as well is change some settings in Chrome. Other browsers will have similar functionality, so we'll go to settings, and then scroll down where it says show advanced settings. And I've already done this, but where it says downloads, I recommend that you set ask where to save files. Otherwise, files will go directly to the downloads folder, which can be inconvenient, especially if you want to give the file a specific file name or something like that. So I recommend you have this box checked, and then you should be all set. All right, so let's shut down Radiant, and we're back in RStudio. All right, you have completed the install process.